series we have going on, and we're calling it like From the Field, where you can ask questions of general kind of arts and culture things that come to your community, and then we'll reach out to our partners in the it's a new word I've heard. It's called the GLAM community, which is galleries, archives, libraries, and museums, which I think is like a wonderful thing. And the gals from Southeast are working with us on that. But yeah, so it's the GLAM squad. So we're reaching out after we hear some questions from folks on what they want to learn about, or if they have any questions, and then we'll go to our partners similar to our folks like Jara and Kayla, and we'll try to answer some questions. So today's conversation is from Jara from Carfac, and we've got Kayla just joining us now, and with support from Sask Culture and Sask Lotteries. So the bulk of the people in the room have either Catherine or Stephanie or I have met before, but we are part of the Saskatchewan Lotteries districts of sport, culture, and recreation, and we're Prairie Central, so right kind of smack dab in the middle of the province. We go kind of Saskatoon to Regina, and then Lucky Lake to Kelvington. It's a cryptic little puzzle piece there, and we're happy to be a part of it because in that we also have about 4 different school divisions. We've got 7 different libraries. We used to have about 6 different museums networks, and we kind of get to meet and greet people from all over the province. So our website is prairiecentral.ca. It has a vast kind of plethora of information about who we are and how we can work with you and your communities to kind of make sure that everybody can participate, thrive, and not only be a part of a community, but really belong in communities. That's like a big thing that I really want people to start, not just, yeah, you don't just like live somewhere, but try to belong somewhere. As we mentioned, this whole kind of conversation will be recorded, so I can share this slide with you if you're not sure where your district is. I'm not sure if there's a couple from other districts that were going to join us, but I'm not sure if they're here or not. Okay, so today's conversation is part of that, one of those questions like, I really want to get a mural going. How do I start? What do I do? How do I get a mural is the big question. So basically we've got it broken into about 4 different spots. We're going to talk about why public art, like why it's important, why you should do it. We've got Jara here from Carfac. She'll talk a little bit about Carfac Sask and some public arts projects. And we have Kayla Hansen on the call. She's an artist and educator who's done some beautiful murals throughout the district and the province. So it's nice to have an artist on the call so we can ask. And then I don't know if you noticed on the poster, but we didn't put an end time to this. So I've got a cup of water here, and I can get a cup of coffee, and we can keep this conversation going as long as people are willing to be open and share. So yeah, on the bottom, we want to keep it cruisy, conversational, keep your cameras on, keep your cameras off, you do you. If you've got kids running around or cats, there's usually a few of those on the call, so everyone is welcome to join. And just a friendly reminder too, I learned this in a community builder session the other day. He had this like bank of ideas, and one of the big things that I caught off of that was share the airtime. So certain conversations people are so passionate about, and we want to hear from everybody, but just make sure that you're not hogging the microphone. But do also, with that being said, please feel free to ask questions, raise your hand, stop the conversation, and we'll try to make this be as informal as we can. And again, yeah, so put your questions in the chat box. Somebody will flag it and see when we can get to it. All right. So my quick little blurb here on why public art and community murals. So first up, does anybody know where the top mural is from, or public art?
Davidson.
Davidson. So yeah, Steph probably gets mad, but I like to feature Davidson. That's my hometown, and I'm pretty proud of it. And I'm pretty proud that this coffee pot or percolator, teapot, whatever people call it, my family had a little bit of heritage to that. So we used to own both of the gas stations on Highway 11. Used to be the Esso and the Husky. And it was kind of the meeting spot in between Saskatoon, Regina, Moose Jaw, that traveling spot. And so everybody kind of stopped in Davidson for a cup of coffee. So I love that we've got that kind of tradition continuing. Davidson used to be really big, or we still are a pretty big hockey town. So we've got some skates there and some sports. The theater in town used to be a really big thing. So they've got some of that playing up on there. And that Prairie tapestry book that I think every community has and is part of. So I love that Davidson has kind of featured this, and now they've built actually a park around this on one of the main entrances to the highway. So public art helps spark a sense of identity. It's now also in Kayla's beautiful landmark coloring book. It can turn those kind of spaces. Usually highway intersections are terribly awful and boring. So it kind of brings some life and actually brings in some tourism into the area as well. They've also have some birds there now, kind of back into the trees. You can't really see it. But it helps share a little bit about the community and tell a story. So I just think this piece of art is, yeah, a wonderful kind of collection of all of that. Public art murals can celebrate your local history, your culture, and create opportunities for collaboration and connection. Public art spaces also become gathering places, as I mentioned, the landmarks, and a source of inspiration to help people feel seen and more alive. So it's a little bit of a giveaway too, but does anybody know the bottom mural?
I can't see a bottom mural.
So the bottom little mural is is a connection of mine as well. It's the community of Silton. So we've got a village of about 74 people, I think. And we created kind of this placemaking. So we created a big giant deck on Main Street. And now we're starting to do a collection of not big murals, but that one is I think it's about 4x3. So through different kind of storytelling events and kind of community conversations, we're going to build a gallery wall there. And so again, it tells a little bit about the story of Silton, and just brings people together at a certain space for connection and collaboration. So two kind of big questions from this: why public art, and why community murals, is what story do you want to share? And is there a space you want to activate or bring to life? And a new way of saying that, they call it as placemaking. So when you're thinking about your public art and what you're wanting to do and where you're wanting it to go, just kind of keep those two questions in mind. Okay, so now I am going to stop sharing. And I will mute and pass it over to Jara. And good to see you, Kayla. So I will hand it over.
Okay. All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone. It's an honor to be here and to talk about public art, and I'm so grateful to all the work that Prairie Central does in getting artists paid and creating these projects that are placemaking and community building. So I work for an organization called CARFAC, which stands for Canadian Artist Representation, or Les Fonds des Artistes Canadiens. I am going to just start a timer so I'm aware. There we go. And so that is a national body, and I work for the provincial affiliate of Carfax Sask. So that's our website, our social media, and my email if anyone is interested. And so basically Carfax came about in the very late 60s, based on the foundation that art is work. Right? And that is still something that we advocate for today, and find that still needs a lot of work as folks that are artists in the call, or people that hire artists probably still encounter. There's a little bit of need for dialogue still to advocate that artists' work should be compensated. So as an organization, we're interested in labor best practices for visual artists because it's a huge swath of people in that industry, and it's I would say it's underregulated, right? In terms of labor. So just a brief context of the organization. We were founded in 1975. Canada becomes the first country to pay exhibition fees to artists. Up until that point, artists showing in galleries weren't being compensated. It was, done for the love of the game, for exposure, all those things we still hear today. And then in the 80s, Carfax SAS came about. And then in 1988 was a key date as well, with the Canadian Copyright Act, recognizing artists as primary producers of culture, with a legal entitlement to compensation. So that, even though those are some historical dates, that is still important context to the foundation of why we exist as an organization. And so our kind of key output that everyone knows Carfax for is our recommended fee schedule. So Canadian copyright law provide artists with the right to be paid for exhibitions and reproductions, and most public funders require that museums and public galleries pay royalties and fees in accordance with our guidelines, which are updated every year to account for inflation. So things that will be found on this schedule are, you know, if you're having a solo exhibition or a group exhibition, what should be paid? If you're giving an artist talk, what should be paid? And stuff like that. However, and also for reproduction of your work is being published in as the cover of a book, for example. But what we are finding is that for public arts, a lot of that doesn't fall under the purview of that fee schedule. And so these are just photos I took today on my morning walk, from my home to my office. These are some of the murals that that I see every day, that I pass by every day. And I wanted to include them because they show the reality that a mural sticks around and they become, a little worse for wear, or etc. But they really tell the story that way. And so, yeah, Carfax recognized there was a need for more resources around public art, including public sculpture and stuff, but I'll try and focus mostly on murals today. So there was consultation involved to make a toolkit that will be coming out very shortly, that Aileen and I were just chatting, that will circulate to everyone that's on the call. It'll be a really juicy, like 40-page almost document. But I want to just keep these images up for a moment. And some of these things might be kind of second nature to a lot of the folks on the call if you are already involved in mural making. But probably every mural starts with a wall. There's some that are like, it's popular to do on the ground now, or etc., creative stuff, but generally there's a wall. And whether that's brick or concrete or MDO or aluminum, or maybe it's mosaic tile or whatever, there's that physical reality of the considerations that, artists bring to material conditions. But there's also legal logistics, because someone owns that wall, and therefore you have to get permission. And then there's various degrees of accountability to the owner of that wall, which could very well be a community. And then someone is financially invested in the creation of the mural, and so there's accountability in that regard. It could be that it's coming about as a public or private commission. You could have answered a call for artists or obtained a grant. There could be a community partnership or community participation aspect. And so you see off the hop how already it's just so much more than an artist working in isolation. It becomes this heavy administrative load in terms of mural making. And so you're also dealing with significant time frames. And even after it's completed, you're thinking about the artwork's lifespan as something existing in public space moving forward that might have maintenance needs. And so the skills required in bridging artistic creation also include construction, project management, maybe even engineering or architecture, in terms more of like larger public works, or like contract work. So basically, if you're planning to do everything yourself, you're wearing your artist hat, but you're also for sure wearing a project manager hat, and probably some other hats as well. So you have to think about things all the way from planning to execution through to future maintenance. So Carfax was developing this public art toolkit, and the public art toolkit aims to provide a baseline for best practices for contract and payment standards in public art. And so it includes its own, how I referenced the minimum recommended fee schedule. It has its own minimum recommended fee schedule that is much more tailored to the way artists work when working with public art. And that includes payment for various stages of the project. So I'm just gonna click, see if I can open it. So it's not publicly available yet, but there are some components on Carfax National's website. Here we go. So the fee sections are divided into panel fees. And this is actually a fee that exists in our pre-existing fee schedule as well. And that's if you are sitting on a selection committee and we're, you know, there'd been a call for artists and you're now one of the adjudicators, that sort of thing. And then public art proposal fees. So if you were answering a call for artists, they might be asking you for your artist CV, samples of past work, an expression of interest. So at the call for artist stage, hopefully folks aren't answering you to asking you to do a whole concept drawing or a whole preliminary maquette or things like that, because that then becomes labor that we would say you should also be paid for. So sometimes, depending on the scale of a public work, there might be different phases of a selection. So you might often there might be a second adjudication where you are asked to make a maquette and then you are paid for that, for example. But anyway, so say that you're selected to be an artist or you're invited to be an artist based on whether it's just a temporary installation or it's a work that already exists or that it's a fresh commission. These are the fee proposals that we'd suggest, and this is before the work is even made. This is just for the concept and so that administrative work and those meetings and stuff like that to get everything to the phase where it can be created. So then there's the actual artist fees. Yeah, and so this functions very differently than if you're familiar with our other fee schedule, because it is looking at the overall budget for a project and basing what the artist should be paid based on a percentage of that budget. And so these percentages being a minimum artist fee that would include the signing of the contract, the development of the artwork or design, the submission of an artwork and or design, the review and like revisions are a part of that, consultation, you know, your headshots, your bio, kind of basic stuff like that. And then a maintenance manual is something that I've heard more about in terms of sculpture, of like how to fix it, but there could be maybe this is practice also for murals if it's a simple enough fix, simple enough touch-ups. Yeah. Whereas now if there's labor expected on top of that, then here's a list of sort of additional labor where you might want to increase that minimum fee that's being required. Yeah, so all of that's up on the website now to give a sense of things. Yeah, let's see. So the other thing that is included in this new toolkit is a glossary of terms. There's recommended contract clauses. And then there's a recommended budget lines as well. So the budget with this kind of artist fee pulling back from what the budget is, the budget becomes pretty key and important here. And so that those expenses, it'll be important to understand who is paying for what and have that everything outlined in your contract and your work plan. So let's see, here's a little peek at the toolkit and some of the budget lines that it recommends thinking about. And like all Carfax resources, everything is built for you to pull what you need, because not everything will apply to every artist context. Yeah, so we talked about the design fee, we talked about additional fees, as well as the artist fee, but fabrication installation costs, perhaps that's more for public art context, but still relevant. Equipment rentals. So if you're renting scaffolding or scissor lifts um, but also perhaps you might need to build into your budget training or certification for some of those tools you might be using. Permits and insurance, contractor and subcontractor fees. And then
Sarah,
now
is
we're all,
there,
yeah,
sorry, is
yeah.
there much difference in that than the commission agreement, or is that like that's on Carfax Sask site now? Is this like kind of a
Yeah,
revision to that?
yeah.
Okay.
Totally. That's very similar, and that's a good resource to look at as well. This will just be the most up-to-date document. And this has been the committee that worked on this is like people working at a high level all across the country with a ton of experience in public art. Yes, whereas that commission agreement is good and similar, like lots provides a lot of things to think about, but is a little older now. So yeah,
Thanks.
both
Sorry
things
to
to take
interrupt.
a look at. No, that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, and then your actual materials and supplies, which could also become like quite costly. And then if there's any site prep that needs, when do you need to travel, etc. So I'm pretty excited about this resource for us. Yeah, so contracts become so important. And it's like your legal right as an artist to have a contract. As of 2010, Canadian government requires that folks that are engaging artists provide contracts. So never feel shy in in asking for that. It's totally the responsible thing to do.
So who's responsible
Yeah,
for making the contract? Is it the community that writes it up, or is it the artist that writes it up?
it should be whoever's hiring the artist.
Okay.
Yeah. But in a situation where somebody isn't providing you with a contract, then you could come back and use one of the templates we have or something um, and ask for it. But it should be whoever is hiring the artist. Mhm. Um, let's see. So things, oh yeah. Um, Right. So I just wanted to highlight these are some examples of this isn't exactly a contract template, but effectively it is. They're just not calling it that. But these are different clauses that you could pull when building a contract. Or things that if you're an artist and you've received a contract offer, you could say, oh, I'm not comfortable because you've left out, um, that I retain my own intellectual property copyright, for example. And so even though it is by law that you as the artist retain your copyright, it's always nice to also have that in the contract. Um, yeah. And there should be something about crediting you in terms of this mural that you create. And then if there's any reproduction use, what the limitations are of that. Because, for example, there might be a separate agreement where if, the bagel shop you made the mural for is now selling postcards and it's your design, then that would be an additional royalty fee, for example. Um, yeah, so I wanted to just highlight this section here, which breaks out a payment schedule. And so this will become very important. And I've heard folks say that sometimes it's even two separate contracts that pertain to the concept drawing and planning phase and then the execution phase, just because sometimes artists will do a lot of work and then maybe the project doesn't, it falls through or something. So you always want to make sure that there's these checkpoints that you're getting paid for work up to a certain point. Yeah, so here it has it broken up of, first payment upon signing the agreement, second payment upon approval of the final design, and then upon the approval of the fabrication, and then of like it actually being realized. Um,
I'll just interrupt
Yeah.
again and just say
yeah,
that it's like beneficial for the community and for the artist to have these,
Yes.
like a mutually beneficial agreement. We've had a couple communities, I don't want to say get burned by artists, but it's like it can go
yeah,
both ways. Sometimes artists don't get appropriately paid, and then sometimes
yeah,
communities don't get the piece they're expecting on the timeline that they're expecting too. So if it
yeah,
is in writing, then it's just something that you can kind of, I know some of these agreements and arrangements are made for Toronto, but they also work in Kelvington. So we just need to make sure that it's like tailored for you and for your community and the artists that you're working with. And then
yeah,
it is a guideline. It's not mandated
totally.
law, they're guidelines. So I just want to make sure, because some of these things I'm like, oh God, we've had things done in my community and we didn't do that and we didn't do that. But it's always
Yeah.
better to just be on the safe side and get a couple things in writing. Like I know so many of us are good with handshakes, but
Hmm.
save screenshot those conversations on your phone.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's such a protection for everyone. Um, and yeah, the design might not go through, right? Like everyone needs to, and as part of the contract, like agree upon the design, agree upon this. Um, yeah, yeah, it's true. Like, don't be doing things by handshake is the Carfax recommendation, even though we know that's not always the reality of how things actually get done. And I know that artists also can see a contract and feel like it's big business trying to take advantage of them because it's so much words and so much goop, perhaps, but a contract can be in simple language, and ultimately you're signing it for your own protection too, to ensure that you'll still get paid um, for the labor that you do. Also, in terms of public art, a huge component is that delays can happen. So having that in your contract as well of like what's going to happen, like what's the process for addressing delays and getting back on the same page. Because, an artist might be late on their stuff, but also there's so many moving parts, if working with a municipality, for example, or something like that. And so, yes, having these documents, um, yes, so much of a protection. And there's other documents you might want to have too. If you're working with a community partner, you might want to have a memorandum of understanding or a letter of agreement or something that isn't as complicated, but just something to get on the same page. And whoever your stakeholders are, if it's the owner of a building commissioning you or a funder or municipality or community group, um, having a timeline that really confirms and in the contract you confirm your start and end dates, but also creating a work plan in addition that is a document that's shared with all the stakeholders that moves back from that end date backwards and in more detail um, just shares the details of this project milestones because ultimately it's just about getting on the same page. Yeah. Um, Yeah, let me go back to my presentation here. Mhm. So yeah, you can peruse what's up on Carfax website already, but then know that that's just sort of the tip of the iceberg. And now there's this bigger document coming. And Aileen, as you were saying, like you're like, oh, we didn't fully do this in the past or something. This is the first like really comprehensive document around public art and suggesting labor standards around it. So this is just a good moment to revisit and think about how we'll work moving forward because I'm sure that's the case for a lot of folks. And then we do have on our Carfax Ask website contract templates, and we don't have anything mural specific on there, but we do have the commission template that Aileen referenced. And yes, if you are ever pushing against someone who's not giving you a contract, you can reference the Arts Profession Act of 2010 that says that written contracts are required between artists and any engager who contracts or retains the services of a professional artist. And then I did want to point to these guys. They're out of Toronto, and they were one of the groups that was consulting on the Public Art Toolkit. So they work with a lot of projects that bring murals about in Toronto, but they also have a ton of resources available as well. And they have some great resources around safety as well. Because they talk about how when you're making a mural, you're 1 foot in artistry and you're 1 foot in construction. And so they kind of say, scissor lift would be your safest option, depending on how big the mural you're working on is. And then scaffolding would be next. They recommend ladders not being the safest option because awkward. They recommend if you're working outside to work around the weather. Maybe working in the morning or the late afternoon, so you don't get too hot because when you get hot and exhausted, that's when accidents can happen. So to just take care of yourself as well. Um, yeah, I feel like that's perhaps, 24 minutes. Pretty good. I think that's everything that I wanted to overview. I know it was probably pretty, um, I don't know, overwhelming having all that text on the screen, so thanks for bearing with me.
No, it was awesome. And I will also, on that mural roots, there's another link in there because I think you had shared that with me. But they have like a how to do a mural kind of 101 and like a bunch of like different steps to go through and kind of like a little checklist, which is really handy. And so that'll be in the
Mhm.
follow-up as well. And so now is there any questions for Jara right now? And again, we will have time for questions afterwards. I know I was kind of sticking my hand up there at lots of times, but
Which was awesome.
okay, I can't do the awkward whatever 40 minutes or 40 seconds you're supposed to wait. So if anybody does have something to say, just go for it. But I will pass it over to Kayla. I don't know, I've been following your work since you did a bunch of things in Moose Jaw. And then the community of Strasbourg actually hired Kayla to do a beautiful mural kind of in this blank vacant spot on Main Street. And I saw it and was like, well, I want one too. So she actually painted one for me for our upstairs of our house with our land location on it. So I will never forget it on a giant 4x8 sheet of plywood. So, but yeah, thank you for joining the call.
Thanks for having me. Um, Glad to be here. I was thinking the whole time, I was like, I've done the handshakes. I've done a lot of them. I've never really been burned, but I've dabbled in like the big grants and I've done all kinds of in between contracts as well. I'm gonna share my screen. This is the first time I've ever done this, so bear with me here. Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay, and then a lot of this is gonna seem a little redundant because I feel like Jarrett really covered quite a bit of what I wanted to say, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So, um, My name's Kayla Hansen, and I'm going to speak to my experience as a muralist as I walk you through the process of how, like, the process that I use when I'm approaching a project for a mural from start to finish. But the reality is that, a lot of places actually don't refer to like Carfax or use the proper channels to offer these contracts. But I'm not going to go into a bunch of details on contracts. I just want to talk about what it's like on my side, the reality of it all. And if you guys have questions, I'm happy to pause and answer or just wait till the end. So yeah, I'm a visual artist and an educator, and I'm based in Humboldt. Over the years, I've lived and worked in several Saskatchewan communities, including Estevan, Regina, and Moose Jaw. After returning to Humboldt in the fall of 2023, I've been balancing my career in education with my work as a visual artist. And I focus primarily on mural and art projects during the summer months when I'm not so busy working as a teacher. So just a little bit more about me. My art name is 32 Flavors. I've got kind of a decent following on Facebook, and I do a lot of Saskatchewan themed art. I know my demographic and people like the Saskatchewan stuff. And Eileen, you were talking about the Strasbourg mural, and I don't know if you know this, but the William Derby School has asked me to do another mural for them. And just today I was asked to do a mural at Rowan's Ravine. So I'm like super excited about that. I'm currently at the high school teaching, if you can believe it, math of all things. I'm a casual art instructor at the Humboldt and District Museum and Art Gallery. They often do a Come Paint With Us series in the fall and in the winter, and I'm constantly invited back, which is nice. And then I get to do work with other artists in town here, teaching classes to teens and adults as well. And yeah, I got public art kind of all over the place. Not just murals either. I just do a range of different things. So it's a little bit about me. So I've been painting community murals since I was 14. The first time I was ever approached, I was in grade 8. My principal came to me and asked me to do a mural in the boot room. I know this color is black and white, you can't really see, but behind me is the mural that I was painting. That was the first one I ever did. And I always appreciated the talent that my teacher saw in me and gave me the opportunity to kind of showcase it because it really jump started my love for public art. Um, so I wanted to just talk about my phases of how I approach from start to finish. The first is the concept phase. This phase focuses on like the logistics and determining an accurate project quote. A lot of times I'm getting approached and they're going to ask me how much it's going to cost. They don't normally state their budget outright. So I have to tell them, well, this is how much I would charge. And to do that, I have to, um, factor in a bunch of different things, including what Jared's already mentioned. Um, in many cases, a client will approach artists with a vision for the mural, but they won't, again, state their budget outright. As a result, quotes can sometimes come in higher than expected because there are several important factors that influence that final cost, including the size and the scale of the mural. So is it not so large that I don't need like a ladder or scaffolding? The surface that it's going to be painted on. So again, we've got all kinds of different types of surfaces, drywall, we've got brick, we've got, aluminum, all kinds of different plastics. Like there's certain paints that will work on it and certain paints that won't. Whether the mural will be painted directly onto the surface or if they're going to be painted on portable panels. I've had a few murals that have been painted in studio and then are later installed at the location. The type of paint and preparation required, kind of already touched on that. Environmental considerations as well, such as weather and temperature, because again, paint works certain ways in different temperatures. Whether the materials and paint are supplied by the client or the artist. I mean, a lot of the times I'll bring my own stuff in because I know what needs to be used on a project. Others are just like, I just need you to paint it. Just do what you got to do. But then there's other times where they will have a specific color in mind, or they'll have the color of the wall already existing. And if I have to like touch up or if I make mistakes, I will need that same shade. So sometimes they'll provide that too. So there's always those considerations. Then I also have to look at the special equipment needed, such as like ladders or projectors, scaffolding, etc. If I'm traveling, travel expenses as well. And then I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but I also have to look at the available facilities on site. So if there's access to water, or if there's a washroom, or if there's food nearby. Because if I'm putting in long hours, I mean, I'm gonna be like living there, so I need to be able to do my biological things. So these details play a significant role in both the planning process and the overall project cost. So then we get to the design. So depending on the artist, the initial design draft is typically not provided free of charge. In my process, I often include a design fee within the overall project cost. However, when multiple revisions or major modifications are requested, the project naturally becomes more time intensive and costly. And for this reason, contracts are extremely important. A contract usually outlines the number of revisions included in the agreed upon price and clarifies how additional revisions will be billed. And the initial payment may serve as like a non-refundable deposit, a design fee, like Jared kind of mentioned this, like you should get paid for that first bit of work. It could also be considered like a signing bonus. And this ensures that the artist is compensated fairly for their time and their creative work. So once the contract is finalized and the design has been approved, the project timeline can be established. At this stage, I can also confirm that the work environment is properly prepared, including access to washrooms and water. Usually if I'm using like a projector or something, I need an available power source. I need safe and appropriate equipment for installation and painting, or whether ladders are sufficient, or, scaffolding or whatever needs to be brought in. So I'm just showing you examples of just it's a recent project I did in the Reed Thompson Public Library in Humboldt. They did a call for artists. They selected my top right corner submission, except they wanted the background a little bit different. They wanted the sunset and they wanted the leaves to be more prominent on these trees. So I did another mock-up and they agreed on this one. I agreed, okay. At this point, after the final design is approved, then we start planning when we're going to come in and get working on it. So phase 3 is the application process. So this phase is where the mural comes to life. Like many artists, my goal is always to complete the mural as efficiently as possible while maintaining quality. When working on a mural, particularly when I'm traveling, I often work long hours to stay on schedule. And for murals inside businesses or public spaces, it's important that the artist has reliable access to the building. So this may include providing a key or a security code, or arranging for staff access, because lots of times it's hard to work during their business hours. Again, this is a library. I only had Sundays to do it, and they had to arrange for people to kind of let me in. And if I left, then I was locked out, so I had to stay in the building. So clear and ongoing communication is essential as well, because there was times where people were not there to let me in, and I had to make phone calls to people to let me in. Having contact information readily available is again going to help address any issues really quickly and keep that project moving forward in a timely manner. So I'll just go through kind of how this mural shirt turned out. I brought some students of mine from the HCI Art Club, and they wanted to see what it was like to work in the public eye, and a lot of them are interested in like just doing public work. So I wanted to bring them in for this project, and they enjoyed it. And this is what it looks like at the end. They're doing their grand opening next Monday for it. So I just had a couple of, tips and takeaways from an artist. The first is to be transparent about the budget. So whether it's big or small, artists will usually work within the budget if they want the project bad enough. It's something that they want to do. Again, yes, it's like for the love of the game, but If they know ahead of time what to expect, then they can actually create something that works within that budget. Um, I I can easily do a mural for $200-300 as long as it's simple enough, small enough. I can do it. I think a lot of people are very overwhelmed by how expensive murals are supposed to be. The second is research artists in your area whose style matches your creative vision. Um, this is again, we like I like the call for artists. It gives people fair chances. I do like being selected, of course, but I mean, I also agree that there's times where a certain project might not be my style and it might be better suited for someone else. So, call for artists will get you the best results for what you're looking for. And then, of course, you want to use that contract. So it protects both the client and the artist by ensuring expectations are clear from the start. So payment schedules, Jerry again kind of touched on that, but usually for me, an initial deposit is made upon signing the agreement, a second payment once the design is approved, and then the final payment upon completion of the mural. Um, so yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about the common challenges. It's being a muralist is it is challenging, but it's very rewarding. Each project comes with its own unique challenges, but generally the most common ones are listed here. So the first is finding that balance between the client expectations and the artistic vision. Um, I don't know if that's pretty self-explanatory. It's just they have a certain thing in mind and the artist has what they have in mind, and it's really hard to kind of get what they want sometimes. It's only sometimes, but most of the time they like what we do and then it's good. But yeah, there's always times where it's just like I think they're hesitant to say like, it's not exactly what I was looking for. So that's number one. The second is inconsistent communication. So this is like unclear feedback, delayed responses, or if there's too many people like having their input all at once, it can slow down our projects significantly. Scaling artwork can actually be pretty challenging, depending on how big it is. We've got the VR headsets now. I don't have that, but someday maybe. But just, having to project, even just thinking about if you're outside at night and you want to use a projector, you have to do it at night. Like you can't do it during the day. You're not going to see anything. So scaling artwork can be definitely challenging that a lot of artists are faced with. Working with awkward surfaces. It's not just so much the surface. I mean, there's gyp rock and all kinds of things that you paint on sometimes, but it's also just like the angles of certain things, which kind of goes into those long hours and that physical strain. So sometimes you have to work in really weird positions where you're crouched or your hands are up for a long time, and it's hard on you. Timeline, getting it done on time, that's a major pressure as well. Access to the space. I've had issues with getting access to spaces. Uh, public interactions, though it can be positive, muralists are often interrupted while working by people asking questions or offering opinions or distracting them during their work. This has happened to me. We did this project in downtown Moose Jaw where we did a kids walking art tour. We were painting on garbage cans and benches and all kinds of things, and it was hard because there was always people, had their thing to say, and of course you want to be nice, but you just don't want to ignore. So that's just something that comes with the job. You have to interact with the public and be nice and try to shoo them on their way, but it does happen. And then the last is the pressure to create something meaningful. There's a lot of pressure in wanting to create something that will mean a lot and be respectful in community projects. So this is, including local identity, culture, or history, and you want to represent it accurately and respectfully. Um, I've talked to people. I mean, there's a lot of, Saskatchewan, we talk about a lot of indigenous symbols, imagery. I don't want to overstep boundaries. I want to avoid cultural appropriation. So there's times where I will make sure that I'm talking to the proper people to make sure that this is okay. Can I represent you this way? Just asking permission, basically. Um, this is just this is part of that physical strain. I did a mural for the Carleton Trail College, their 50th legacy anniversary. They're panels that I painted over the winter months so we could install it in the spring. So it gave me time to work on it, but my studio wasn't big enough to actually have them like upright. So I had to paint it while it was on the floor. So I was on my hands and knees to paint the entire mural. I managed to do it. I had my cat run across it once and there was like footprints everywhere and I had to fix it up. But it was straining, but we did it. Now it's secure on the wall, it looks good. But yeah, it's just, again, there's some reality that people might not think of, like when you're actually down and dirty, really in there, like there's paint all over the place, you're spilling, it's hard on the knees, you need, yeah, there's all kinds of things. So again, working with murals comes with its challenges, from weather and logistics to balancing client expectations, but those challenges are also what make the work fulfilling, because every mural, again, requires problem solving and adaptability and collaboration. But then there's this legacy that you leave behind and that others can enjoy, and it's worth every challenge. And I just love it. I love being able to do what I do. Yeah, that's my little spiel on what it's like to work on community murals. I probably didn't take as long as you expected me to, but thanks for following along, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you guys had any. So I don't know how to get out of here. Sorry.
That's it. At the bottom, there's like, should be like a arrow and you can like click to
Ah,
there.
Stop share. Oh, there it is.
There
Okay,
we go.
sorry. Okay.
So yeah, are there any questions from the crowd or? I'm not sure if
Thank you. Thank you. I saw the comment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always neat to hear like the both sides of it, from the paperwork side as well as the in reality. The Sheila, he's okay. We don't mind him. Usually
I'm just telling him to get out of the camera, but that's okay.
No worries at all.
Well, I really enjoyed it. I said this was eye-opening in a lot of, we've done 2 or 3 murals, and I said, I don't know who did all the paperwork and who did all that stuff, because I certainly did. And I said I did apply for some grants, but I said, boy, there was a lot of information in here. I'm thank you for guys for both of them. Like I said, I didn't know some of the stuff, like, and it's good to have the templates if we needed, but we've never, I guess maybe some of that was our director. Steph, you could kind of help out I have no idea who would have done any of that stuff, and how good to know that this is available for us if we need it. So it's good. I learned lots this afternoon on this.
Dan, I see you unmuted.
Oh,
I was just going to say I did the paperwork, Sheila.
who did the paperwork?
I did,
Oh,
Dana.
yeah, there she is, Dana. Yeah. I figured she
Good. Good job, Dana.
Yeah. Well, it certainly makes you realize, well, that there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes as much as up front. So.
I just have a couple more quick things I want to share. So a biggie that always comes up with most conversations that Catherine and I have day to day is, how can we help fund this, or where can we find money to make these happen? Some grants, and again, these will be shared after the fact, but SAS Culture has a really great kind of a drop-down menu with lots of grants. Culture Days funding is open right now, and that is it wouldn't pay for all of it, or I guess depending on what you're looking at, but it's a $5,000 sponsorship with 3 kind of organizations partnering together. And I see this as like a really great opportunity to have those community conversations on what matters, what do we care about, what story do we want to share, bring people together with some sticky notes and kind of create your story and share your story. And maybe the final project could be a community mural that, as Kayla said, like maybe an artist creates it, and then maybe some of the youth and students can help paint some of those smaller pieces of it, and then she can go back in and fine tune it afterwards. But it could be a great idea for that culture days, where it's something that's, yeah, bringing people together, participatory, kind of creating those community interactions. We just did another community little mural in Silton, and we did it as part of an SPRA grant for our communities in bloom on kind of creating those public spaces and places, and on that kind of intangible cultural heritage of sharing stories in spaces.
Sorry, I was thinking about something else, but I thought, hey,
That's how you bring that.
And then Prairie Central, we've got some grants, and not saying that we would just cover the entire grant or cover the entire project, but some of those beginning processes on bringing the community together to hear your stories and share what you want could be a part of it. And then if it is, again, maybe it's one of those projects where everybody paints those little murals and brings it all together. Something like that could potentially be covered, but you'd have to kind of run that through Catherine and Stephanie and I. One that I've lately been tapping into every chance I can is their Crown Corporation, Sask Energy, Sask Power, Sask Water. They all have kind of $1,000 grants here and there with no real deadlines or timelines. Quick return. They're great. You just kind of gotta wear your lanyard when you're painting, I guess. I'm not sure. Some of them send you some pretty random stuff alongside the money, but they're really great pots of money that I think are underutilized. Sask Lotteries. Every community has a community grant program, or not every community. Most communities get the funding for our community grant program, and that's lotters money through the Lotteries Corporation. Everybody kind of manages their money differently. So you'd have to talk to if you've got a rec director or an administrator, to see if that money is made available. And then Sask Lotteries also does sponsorship outside of that as well, and that's on their website too. And then Catherine's a really big advocate of this and has found some amazing ways to kind of create those community partnerships and sponsorships. Maybe it's some of those vacant windows that you're wanting to paint on. Maybe it's a building owner owns these buildings and they just want to make them look better. Often that's a source. I know lots of our small towns are really tapped out by asking all of our businesses for things, but sometimes if it's for something different, that it's not a door prize basket, maybe this would be a little bit more kind of legacy behind some of their grant dollars or their kind of participation dollars in a community. And so here's a couple other beautiful kind of community murals. I'm not sure if the one is still there in Young. I honestly haven't been to Young in ages, and I really should, because if that's still there, that's pretty incredible.
It's still there.
Is it? Awesome. And then this is like a trick question. I know there's only some people who will know where the one with that car is. Catherine, do you know where that one is?
Isn't it Hanley?
Yeah, that is the Hanley Bar. Like, how awesome is that? And I have no idea. Probably the bar owner painted it, and I don't know if they had permission from the town or who got it, but I just think it's like it's incredible how massive it is. And yeah, really kind of a reflection of that region as well. So again, if you have any questions or you want to kind of run random ideas through anybody here with Prairie Central, we're always around. We like phone calls. We will travel for coffee and pie, and yeah, would just like to get to meet everybody. And then as well, we do have this kind of from the field cultural conversation. So if you have a question, we want to figure out what it is, and then we want to work with the community and our partners at Sask Culture and Carfac and the Museums Association, whoever we can, to kind of get those answers and have these casual conversations with everybody. Yeah. So anything else? I know I said I'd share the mic and not hog the conversation, but
Well, something I was thinking about when Kayla you were talking about being interrupted. when Mural Routes did a presentation, they actually said if you have budget to like budget for a subcontractor to be like the meet and greet person on like busy days and like be the ambassador and like that sort of blue sky, like if you know you have additional budget for sure, not but it was interesting seeing you bring that up and like yeah.
Well, I mean, there's at one point I was like, should I just have like a sign behind me saying busy, like don't bother me? Like, I
Artists at
mean,
work, yeah.
kind of have to put pylons out, you know? So,
Yeah,
yeah.
danger, like
Yeah.
caution tape or something, like
Yeah.
paint a big hole, make it so realistic.
That's funny.
I was also curious about preference is in terms of maintenance for murals. If you like to have like first ask of refusal, is that the term? First ask of refusal? If somebody's like, oh, this part got chipped away, could you come in and paint it back? Like, do you like having that? Or yeah.
Well, that actually happened in Strasbourg,
Oh
which
yeah.
is kind of funny. So the one that like Eileen saw at first was the original, which was painted on plywood, and I thought I had it sealed, and I didn't. It got like you have to worry about, I mean, it was in a really bad location, and the sun was just awful to it. So it started to chip, and the red and the yellow paint, like it faded within like a couple months. It was awful. So I was like, ooh. At that point, I actually offered to redesign it digitally and have it printed on chloroplast, and that way it would last. I don't think I've had phone calls of, I mean, I've had a few people that just say, hey, can you come touch it up? Like I'll charge them like a small fee to do it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen very often, and I'm learning to protect my art much better. I'm watching the one that's on Carlton Trail though, and we tried to seal it like crazy. My dad even put like a lip on the top and make sure it was like good for the rain, and we had it siliconed and everything. So we're trying our best to maintain it, but there is no clause in the contract stating that I had to repair it. So I mean, really have to be careful with that too. But if something did happen, I mean, I live in town and I'd be happy to redo something in case something happened, as long as I'm compensated for that extra work, right?
So
So
would you recommend even just doing like smaller 8 by 11 and then having them like digitally blown up on whatever the fancy stuff is, like that metal that doesn't,
chloroplast.
yeah. But
Yeah.
isn't chloroplast that like plastic wouldn't hail
Yeah.
like really kill that? Like I
No.
just think there's some like die cast. What is in Humboldt, all of those like signs that
Wasn't it dye bond?
die
That could
bond?
be. Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah. I
Like
don't
to
know
have
if
it
they
and then
actually.
reproduce them?
Yeah, I think, well, that's totally possible. It's just, it would be cheaper too. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if you want somebody that's a digital artist, the design, like, yes, they do the work, but then it goes off to whoever's in charge of installing it. They're the ones that can pay for the printing, and they're the ones that can, I mean, it's gonna be fine. It's just, that's a new way of doing things now, because we all have, I mean, I've got my
Yeah.
digital, like my tablet here. I can do a lot of stuff on here, but I don't know. It depends on what you prefer. I mean, I did the William Derby one that way, so they can just take the design and do what they want with it.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's gonna last. This design, it's not, there's no maintenance involved. I mean, it's just they print it and then it's good.
And then so do they, I guess they would have to buy the reproduction right to put it on the wall, or that's just part of your contract? Because then they,
It
yeah, like you said,
depends. I
t-shirts
mean,
and
I
whatever.
think most of the time I'm just like, here, you pay me this much and you can do what you want. So yes, technically I'm releasing the rights to you. So
Yeah.
Yeah, or a larger upfront fee for the like the concept phase
yes,
as
yeah,
a way to balance it out as well.
for sure. Yeah, that's usually what happens. Mhm.
Would you work with the committee to say like what space or where it should be in what direction? Like we're trying to do ours on just on a north wall or a west wall where it doesn't get, not a west wall, north or an east wall, so it doesn't get so much sun. Do you Kayla, work with the people to do that?
I mean, I would be willing to throw my input in, but again, it's up to whoever's whoever owns the building. But of course, I'd be there to give suggestions as to, like, you know, a south-facing wall is clearly not going to be the best, but
No.
um whether it's north or east. I mean, north would probably be the best, right?
That's, we've
Yeah.
had success with that one. The last one
Yeah.
we did was on a north wall, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was telling Aileen just before we started, we had a mural, and it's kind of sheltered. It's on our civic center, and part of it was on Dibon, and half of the one panel has gone, like the half of the mural was blowing off on this wind last week.
Oh,
So
gee.
and I'm not sure it was if we'll be able to get what we're going to do yet. We haven't decided what we're going to do with it. So it's just too bad. And it was one of Kevin Pias's.
Oh, really? Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. So I mean, and it was one of the first ones we did, and we thought Dibon was the best, and that was the way to go. So I don't know if if it was the installation, I guess wasn't strong enough or whatever, but who knew the wind was going to be like that? That was
Well,
the
wind was quite,
bad.
it was up there.
Yeah. We didn't get the wind that the south got, but we still had a lot of wind. And this was kind of sheltered in a face west, and I didn't think we'd have that big a catastrophe with it anyways. If Dana's still on, I don't know if she even knew about it. So it just happened last weekend
Sorry, where was this at?
in Wynyard.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know if I've seen that one yet. I've been in Wynyard.
I just had a question come in on where can people put calls for artists? Like, how do they advertise that they're looking for artists? Any feedback on that? Like, this is not a
Are
paid
you
promotion by
asking me?
Kayla, but yeah, please.
I mean, well, I mean, I'm a millennial, so I use Facebook. But a lot of times if people know an artist, they will either tag you on Instagram. Usually social media will be like they will tag the artists. And that's how I find out about a lot of things too. I'll get tagged in things, and if I'm interested, I'll go ahead with it. Sometimes I mean, if you can get it on the radio, if you can get it on the news, well, I don't know if the news is going to do it very much, but most of the time I find that social media is the most successful way of doing it.
Yeah, so people would just create a poster, hi, we're the X town looking for a mural artist with this kind of style, please reach out, and then kind of start those conversations from there.
Yeah.
You can send them to us at Carfax Ask too. We have a e-bulletin that goes out mid-month, and then we do have a printed newsletter that goes to our members roughly every other month, more like every 3 months. But we will only support things that are paying artists fairly as well. But online as well, Akimbo is a blog that a lot of artists look at for calls for artists. It's national.
And then the only other thing I was thinking of is if you've seen a style hanging on a wall somewhere in a community, reach out to the town and see who painted it, and maybe they're still around and able, because a lot of it has to do with, I think it's kind of like, you know, when you're planning a party or planning a wedding, like what goes on in my head isn't the same as what's going on in Kayla's head. But if I know what her style and what her colors look like and the vividness looks like, then I'm going to pick that. Or if I want more of a landscape, like is it Wadena or Wynyard just did some cool ones with birds and
Wynyard, we did.
Wynyard, yeah. So if that's more your style, then you'd reach out to those and find out the artists in those communities to see, go for a drive and see what you like and what's out there, and then ask around and see who's there.
No, hopefully the artist will have put their name and contact information or something on the mural itself.
Hopefully. Yeah, there's no other questions on my end. One sec here. We're gonna do a quick little everyone's favorite. These are the folks from the district on the call.
This is fun.
And these are for 2 lovely coloring books. Awesome. I am not sure who Ling's iPhone is, so you'll have to reveal yourself in either the chat block or email me so I can get these to you. But yeah, they're two kind of coloring books that we got from the gallery in Humboldt. One is the Color Saskatchewan, and it has landmarks, and then the other one is just some like great Saskatchewan vivid colors, and yeah,
Oh, sounds
I love
good.
them.
Yeah, actually, I'm from Calgary. Would you be able to mail to me? Thanks.
Ah, I'm gonna have to say we were gonna gift them to somebody from the district.
Yes, yes. Please go ahead. I just
Okay,
curious.
I
Thanks,
will.
thanks, Doroya. Thank you.
No problem at all here. I am going to, and thanks for that. Sorry, we will try one more time. And
Yeah. No.
Danelle. We have, oh, she's not on anymore, but we have her information, so we can get those sent out. Perfect. And so, yeah, with that, again, reach out to Catherine or myself. We'll send out Jara and Kayla's information as well in a little follow-up email. And then there's also the our evaluation form again, which helps us with future conversations. So if you have a minute, please fill that in. And looks like the sun is finally shining, so hopefully everybody can get out and maybe spring will be here. And looking forward to
Thank you
seeing
so
your
much.
next work, Kayla.
Yeah, me too. It's great.
Rowan's is about, yeah, well, my kids go to school in Strasbourg, and then Rowan's is, yeah, 15 minutes down the road, so.
Thanks, everybody. I can't do the typing, so thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Yeah, it was so great to see your work, Kayla, and meet you. Yeah.
Thanks, Jer. I need to get involved with the Carfax more. I really do.
Yeah, come on.
I know people keep reminding me I'm so busy, but it's like it's on my to-do list. So I'll get there.
Yeah, let me, if you have dreams of how you want to get involved, just email me.
All right, perfect. Well, it was nice meeting you too.
Yeah.